Most people think money will solve their problems, but here's the truth. Money without freedom is just another kind of prison. You can have a fat bank account and still be broke in spirit, broke in time, broke in choices. The wealthy don't just chase dollars, they build freedom. They take risks the average person avoids, and in that courage, they buy back their life. If you want more than a paycheck, if you want freedom, you've got to learn to think different, act bold, and build wealth the way millionaires do. You can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have freedom, what do you really have? Money in itself is not the prize. Freedom is the prize. Money is just the tool. I've met people with large paychecks, expensive cars, and big houses, yet they were prisoners, prisoners of debt, prisoners of endless obligations, prisoners of the lifestyle they built just to impress others. They bought things to look rich, but deep inside they felt trapped. Why? Because they never understood that the true measure of wealth is not how much you earn or how much you spend, but how much control you have over your own life. Freedom means waking up in the morning and choosing what to do with your time. Freedom means being able to take care of your family without the constant worry of the next bill or the next paycheck. Freedom means saying yes to opportunities that excite you and no to obligations that drain you. And money, if used correctly, is the servant that helps you get there. But when money becomes the master, freedom disappears. Let me tell you something I learned early in my career. I was working hard, chasing every dollar, thinking that money itself was the goal. I wanted the car, the suit, the look of success, and I got some of it. But it wasn't long before I realized I had traded one kind of prison for another. I wasn't free, my schedule wasn't my own, my mind wasn't at peace, and my choices were limited. That's when I discovered a philosophy that changed everything for me. Money should buy freedom, not slavery. So how do you move from money as a master to money as a servant? First, you start by defining what freedom means to you. For one person, it might mean traveling the world. For another, it might mean spending more time with family or having the space to create, to build, to give back. You have to be clear about your version of freedom, because when the vision is clear, the money finally has a purpose. Second, you have to stop spending every dollar you earn on things that take away freedom. The flashy car with a massive loan, that's not freedom. The endless subscription services and the gadgets that keep you entertained but broke, that's not freedom. Freedom comes when you delay those things until your assets, your investments, your businesses, your creations are paying for them. That way, you enjoy the comfort, but you keep the freedom. Third, you must embrace discipline. Discipline with money is discipline with freedom. When you save, when you invest, when you resist the urge to consume just for today, you're really buying tomorrow. Every dollar you put to work in an asset is a brick in the foundation of freedom. Every unnecessary expense cut away is a chain removed from your future. Discipline may feel uncomfortable in the moment, but regret is far heavier. And finally, you must understand that freedom is not just personal, it's generational. The wealth you build, the lessons you pass on, the wisdom you share, these ripple beyond your lifetime. Think of it. The time you buy back for yourself can also buy time for your children, for your family, for the causes you care about. That is real freedom. When your efforts extend beyond your own life. So, don't just chase money, chase freedom. Make money your servant, not your master. Build a life where money works for you instead of you working endlessly for money. Because in the end, it's not the paycheck that counts, it's the freedom it buys. Most people spend their whole lives running from risk, and in doing so, they run straight into regret. They think safety is the goal. They think comfort is the reward. But here's the truth. Safety and comfort are expensive. They cost you growth. They cost you opportunity. And in the end, they cost you freedom. If you don't risk the unusual, you will spend your whole life settling for the ordinary. And ordinary, when you know you were built for more, is the most painful kind of prison. Now, I'm not saying gamble. I'm not saying throw your hard-earned money into every shiny opportunity that comes along. I'm saying calculated risk. I'm saying the kind of risk that stretches you, the kind of risk that makes you study, prepare, and grow into the kind of person who can handle more. That's the kind of risk that builds fortunes, because without risk, there's no reward, and without growth, there's no wealth. Think back on your own life. How many times have you seen an opportunity pass by because you hesitated, because you said, "I'll wait for the right time"? And later you look back and thought, if only I had started then, I'd be miles ahead today. I know that feeling because I lived it. I let opportunities pass me by when I was young. I was waiting for the stars to align, waiting for all the answers, waiting for guarantees. And let me tell you, waiting cost me more than risk ever did. The lesson I learned, there are no guarantees. The only guarantee is that hesitation steals more dreams than failure ever will. The wealthy understand this. They create a space in their lives, a margin for risk. They don't bet the farm, but they set aside a risk fund. They put a portion of their earnings into ventures, into experiments, into ideas. Some fail, of course, but the failures teach. The failures sharpen judgment. And the successes? Well, one success often makes up for 10 failures. That's the math of risk. So how do you build this habit of risk without losing your balance? First, you decide to try something new each year. A new investment, a new project, a new business idea. It doesn't have to be grand, but it has to stretch you. It has to push you out of comfort and into growth. Second, you reflect on your past regrets, not to drown in them, but to learn from them. Every missed opportunity is a teacher. You don't want to look back 10 years from now and see the same hesitation stealing your future again. And third, you remind yourself daily, the pain of discipline and the risk of growth are light compared to the crushing weight of regret. Let me give you an example from my own life. When I finally decided to take a chance on entrepreneurship, I was terrified. I didn't know everything. I didn't have all the answers. But I had a choice. Stay safe and stay stuck, or risk failure and open the door to freedom. That one choice changed everything. Did I make mistakes? Absolutely. But those mistakes became my education. And that education became my wealth. So don't shy away from risk. Embrace it. Train it. Manage it. Because the greater danger is not in risking and losing. It's in never risking at all and waking up to a life of regret. Failure is a teacher that most people run from, when in truth, it's the teacher you can't afford to ignore. Everybody wants success. Everybody wants the formula that works. But here's the paradox. You often find the formula for success buried inside the lessons of failure. Success leaves clues. Yes, but so does failure. And if you only study one side of the coin, you'll never have the complete picture. When I look back on my own journey, I can tell you without hesitation that the biggest breakthroughs didn't come when I was standing on a stage celebrating victory. They came when I was sitting alone, wondering why things had gone wrong. I've had businesses stumble. I've made poor investments. I've trusted the wrong people. And at times I ignored my own better judgment. And yet, those moments became priceless because they forced me to grow. They revealed blind spots, sharpened my decision-making, and made me more prepared for the next opportunity. Most people do the opposite. When they fail, they bury it. They hide from it. They never talk about it. They label it as shame, when in reality it was tuition. Think about that. Failure is tuition paid to the school of life. You don't waste your college tuition, do you? You study, you take notes, you squeeze value out of every class. Do the same with failure. Keep a journal of financial lessons. Every mistake, every setback, every wrong move, write it down. Not to dwell, but to learn. Because the faintest ink is better than the strongest memory, and you'll be amazed what wisdom you gather when you revisit those notes. Here's a practice I recommend. Once a quarter, take one failed decision and put it under the microscope. Maybe it was a business you backed that didn't work out. Maybe it was overspending when you should have saved. Maybe it was a partner you trusted who didn't deliver. Instead of pushing it aside, sit down and ask, what did this teach me? Did I miss the signs? Did I skip the research? Did I act on impulse instead of principle? Extract the lesson and commit it to your journal. Because when you do, you not only grow, you make sure that particular tuition never needs to be paid twice. And don't just learn from your own scars. Learn from the scars of others. That's why I've always been a student of biographies. I've read the stories of entrepreneurs, inventors, and leaders who lost everything, who stumbled, who were rejected 100 times before anyone said yes. You know what I discovered? Failure is universal, but so is resilience. Every great wealth builder, every game changer has a graveyard of failed attempts behind them. The difference is they didn't stop there. They mined those failures for gold, and they used that gold to build something lasting. One of the great tragedies of life is not that people fail, it's that they failed to learn from failure. If you can reverse that, if you can embrace failure as your instructor, you'll not only shorten your path to success, you'll strengthen your ability to hold on to it when you get there. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is the soil out of which success grows. If you learn the lesson, the loss was never wasted. Freedom is fragile if it rests on a single pillar. Too many people live their entire lives depending on just one stream of income, and they call that stability. But let me tell you, if that one stream dries up, if that one employer shuts down, if that one contract is canceled, then the illusion of stability collapses, and with it, so does your freedom. Freedom demands multiple streams. To truly live without fear, to build wealth that endures, you must never depend on a single income. I've seen it play out countless times. People with good jobs, steady paychecks, comfortable benefits, until one day the company merges, or the industry shifts, or the boss changes his mind. Overnight, what looked like security vanishes. That's why the wealthy think differently. They don't build their lives on a single stream. They create rivers, channels, and reservoirs. If one dries up, the others keep flowing. That's not paranoia, it's wisdom. So where do you start? Start small, but start. Build a side business. Maybe it's something you know well, something that fits your skills and passion. It doesn't have to be grand, it just has to flow. For me, I started selling simple products. And while the profits were modest at first, they taught me the discipline of creating rather than only consuming. That discipline became a foundation for larger ventures. And in today's world, the opportunities are endless. Explore digital income. Think about the knowledge you already have that could be turned into a course, or the skills you could showcase through content. The beauty of digital streams is they can work while you sleep, reaching people across the world, multiplying your efforts without multiplying your hours. That's leverage. Now, as you begin building streams, don't make the mistake of consuming all the profits. That's where most people go wrong. The first time they see a little extra cash, they upgrade the car, they buy the latest gadget, they inflate their lifestyle. Instead, Reinvest those profits. Plant them into different ventures, some into stocks, some into property, some back into the business itself. Think of each stream as a tree. At first it's fragile. If you cut it down too early, you'll never taste the fruit. But if you nurture it, water it, reinvest into it, soon it produces enough shade and harvest to support you and others. The question you want to ask yourself isn't, how much am I making? But how many streams are flowing? Because that's the true measure of resilience. I can tell you from experience, the moment you build multiple streams, something shifts in your mind. You walk lighter, you sleep deeper, because your life is no longer tied to a single paycheck or a single client. You've bought yourself freedom. The wealthy don't pray for one river. They build many. And freedom isn't found in chance. It's built on choice. The choice to create more than one way to win. So build your streams. Because freedom flows through many channels, not just one. We live in a world that worships the instant. Instant coffee, instant messages, instant gratification. But when it comes to building wealth, if you fall into the trap of chasing the quick win, you set yourself up for disappointment, or worse, disaster. True wealth is like the seasons, predictable, steady, and slow to reveal itself. Just as you don't plant a seed today and eat the fruit tomorrow, you don't invest time, effort, or money today and expect to harvest tomorrow. The principle of the seasons teaches us that there is a time to sow, a time to wait, and a time to reap. Wealth responds to patience and vision, not to the impulse of immediacy. Early in my journey, I wanted results fast. I thought if I worked a little harder for a few weeks or tried something clever, I could skip the waiting period. But life has a way of teaching us patience. It showed me that the quick win often fades just as quickly, but the steady investment, whether of time, skill, or money, compounds into something extraordinary. That's why you must think long term. Picture where you want to be 10 years from now, not 10 days. Write down a 10-year wealth plan. Imagine what assets you'll own, what income streams will be flowing, what impact you'll be making. That vision becomes a compass when distractions tempt you off course. And let me warn you, downturns will come. Just as winter follows autumn, markets will dip, opportunities will dry up, and your patience will be tested. Most people panic when this happens. They sell off their investments, abandon their businesses, retreat into fear. But those who understand the seasons know better. Winter is not the end. It's preparation for spring. That's why I always remind myself, don't panic in the downturns. Don't sell your seed just because the soil is frozen. Hold steady, endure the season, and wait for the thaw. That's how wealth grows, by surviving the winters so you can enjoy the summers. Now, patience doesn't mean idleness. It doesn't mean you sit back and hope things work out. Patience means you keep working your plan even when the results aren't immediate. It means you review your progress annually, not daily. If you check the soil every morning to see if the seed has sprouted, you'll get frustrated. But if you check it at the right intervals, you'll see growth. The same goes for wealth. Look at your progress over years, not days. That perspective keeps you calm, keeps you focused, and keeps you moving forward. When you think long term, everything changes. Your spending habits change because you realize the future cost of today's choices. Your investment habits change because you see the power of compounding. Your emotional habits change because you stop reacting to every little fluctuation. The long-term thinker sees storms not as disasters, but as seasons. So the lesson is simple. Wealth is built like the harvest, over time, with patience, through seasons. Think long-term, because the seasons never lie, and neither does success. When most people talk about wealth, they speak in terms of numbers, bank balances, investment portfolios, properties, possessions. But true wealth isn't measured by what you accumulate. It's measured by what you leave behind. Because at the end of the day, no one remembers the size of your car or the shine of your watch. They remember your contribution, your character, and your impact. That's why legacy is the real measure of wealth. Money spent on indulgence vanishes. Money invested in impact multiplies. The value of life is not just in what you get, it's in what you become along the way and what remains when you are no longer here. I learned this truth watching men and women of wealth who left behind no wisdom, no guidance, no contribution. Their families inherited money but not discipline, and within a generation it was gone. Compare that to those who left behind principles, structures, and generosity. Their legacy endured. That's why you must begin now to think of wealth as something bigger than your lifestyle. Every dollar you earn and every choice you make is building a story that outlives you. So measure success not by indulgence, but by impact. One of the simplest ways to begin is to set aside a portion of your wealth, 5 to 10%, for causes you believe in. It doesn't have to be monumental. Even small, consistent contributions to education, to your community, to the hungry or the struggling, create ripples far beyond what you see. That small slice of your resources becomes an investment in humanity, and humanity always pays dividends in meaning. Then, consider your family. If you've worked hard to build wealth, don't just hand them assets, hand them wisdom. Create trusts or funds that provide structure, that teach responsibility, that carry your vision into their future. Give them the resources to build, but also the discipline to preserve. Wealth without guidance is like a ship without a compass. It drifts and eventually sinks. Legacy means equipping the next generation not only with money, but with principles. And beyond money, leave them your mind. Document your lessons, your experiences, your failures, and your victories. Write them down, record them, pass them on. Don't underestimate the power of your words. Long after your wealth has been spent or grown, your wisdom can continue to guide. Too many families inherit money but not the playbook. Don't let your children or community start from scratch when they could stand on your shoulders. Remember, lifestyle fades but legacy grows. A fancy dinner is forgotten in a day, but a scholarship changes the course of a lifetime. A luxury car loses its shine in a few years, but a fund for your children's education bears fruit for generations. That's why I urge you to measure your wealth not by what you keep, but by what you give, what you build, and what you leave behind. Because when the final chapter of your life is written, the real question won't be how much you had. It will be how much you became and how much you left for others to become. Wealth doesn't appear out of nowhere. It doesn't arrive like a lightning bolt or a winning lottery ticket. Real wealth is built brick by brick, habit by habit, day by day. And the truth is, most people overestimate what they can do in a short time and underestimate what they can accomplish over a decade with consistency. The secret isn't in grand, dramatic moves. It's in small, daily disciplines. Because success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day, while failure is just a few errors in judgment repeated until it becomes disaster. Think about it. If you were to save even $5 or $10 daily, it might not feel like much at first. You could say, what's the point? It's too small. But $5 saved every day becomes $150 in a month, nearly $2,000 in a year. And if invested, it grows into tens of thousands over time. That's the quiet power of compounding. It's not about the amount, it's about the discipline. If you can manage the small, you'll soon be trusted with the big. The same applies to learning. You don't need to read a book in a day, but read 30 minutes every single day on finance, wealth, mindset, or personal development, and within a year you'll have consumed the wisdom of dozens of books. That knowledge will separate you from the majority who consume only entertainment. Little daily deposits of wisdom accumulate into a fortune of perspective and strategy. And when opportunity knocks, the prepared mind will always answer faster than the distracted one. But here's the catch. You can't just hope that habits will stick. You must track them. Accountability is what turns a wish into a discipline. Write down what you're saving, track what you're reading, and measure your progress weekly. Just as a business tracks profits and losses, you must track your habits, because habits are the true balance sheet of your future. If you want to know where you'll be in 5 years, just look at what you do daily right now. I've watched people transform their lives simply by changing tiny behaviors. One man I mentored stopped buying a cup of coffee every morning and redirected that money into an investment account. Years later, that simple decision had grown into tens of thousands of dollars. Another began listening to audiobooks in the car instead of music. Over time, his mind sharpened, his ideas grew, and his income followed. Small hinges swing big doors. So don't despise small beginnings. Don't wait for the perfect moment to start with something grand. Start today with what you have. Save a little, read a little, track a little. It's like planting seeds in a garden. One seed may not look like much, but a handful planted every day will turn into an orchard that feeds generations. Discipline today becomes freedom tomorrow. If there's one truth that has never failed me, it's this. We become a reflection of the people we spend the most time with. Like it or not, you are the average of the 5 people closest to you. If those 5 are complainers, chances are you'll find yourself complaining. If they're spenders with no plan, you'll likely follow that path too. But if they're builders, learners, disciplined men and women working toward something bigger, then slowly, almost unconsciously, you'll rise to match them. Environment shapes us far more than we realize. And wealth, just like poverty, can be contagious. I've seen people transform not because they changed jobs or cities, but because they changed the circle of people they kept close. One young man I worked with used to spend evenings with friends who did little more than drink, gossip, and waste hours. He had ambition, but it was buried under peer influence. When he finally stepped into a mastermind group, people who discussed investments, growth, personal development, his life turned around. In a year, his income doubled, his savings multiplied, and more importantly, his thinking expanded. That's the power of association. It's not about cutting everyone off. It's about being intentional. You don't need to hate anyone, but you do need to protect your future. Limit the time you spend with people who drain your energy and replace it with time spent with those who fuel your vision. It could be mentors you meet for coffee once a month, achievers you connect with at workshops, or even voices you bring into your life through books and recordings. If your current circle doesn't inspire you, borrow someone else's until it does. And here's something crucial. You don't need dozens of people to shift your trajectory. Sometimes, one mentor can do more than 100 acquaintances. 1 hour with someone who's been where you want to go can save you 10 years of mistakes. That's why I tell people, invest in mentorship, invest in networks. The return is immeasurable. Practical steps matter here. Join a mastermind group. Even if it stretches you financially, it will force you to level up. Spend intentional time with mentors. If you don't know any, find them in books, podcasts, and seminars until you do. And make an honest audit. Who are the 5 people shaping your average right now? If they aren't pulling you forward, you must adjust that list. Remember, wealth and growth thrive in the right soil. Surround yourself with dreamers who also doers, with thinkers who also act. Because if you walk with the wise, you'll grow wise. But if you linger with the careless, their habits will become yours. Choose carefully who earns the right to influence you, because your future depends on it. The marketplace doesn't reward time, it rewards value. You can work 8, 10, even 12 hours a day, but if those hours aren't producing value that solves problems for others, the marketplace remains silent. That's why some people earn a little for a lot of hours, while others earn a fortune in the same span of time. The difference isn't the clock, it's the value. Money is simply the certificate of value delivered. And if you want more of it, the question isn't, how many hours can I work? But rather, how much value can I create? I remember a young man who asked me why his paycheck barely grew despite years of loyalty to his company. I asked him, how much more valuable are you this year compared to last year? He hesitated. That hesitation gave the answer. If you want the marketplace to pay you more, you must bring more. More skill, more ideas, more solutions. The world is not short on money. It's short on people willing to solve meaningful problems. So, how do you begin? Start with this daily question. What problem can I solve for others? It doesn't have to be grand at first. Maybe it's helping someone save time, making a process smoother, or offering clarity where there's confusion. Write it down, refine it, and ask yourself if the solution can be multiplied. 1 person helped is good. 100 is better. 1,000,000? That's how fortunes are made. Think about the products and services you use daily. Someone, somewhere, solved a problem for you and packaged it. That's why you paid them. The wealthiest individuals are often those who figured out how to solve a need, not just for 1 person, but for many, and then scaled it. That's the secret. It isn't luck, it's leverage. But here's where discipline comes in. Don't just solve problems haphazardly. Document your solutions. Refine them until they are reliable and repeatable. And then package them into a service, a product, a piece of content, a course, a book, or even a simple tool that others can access. The more easily others can benefit from your solution without your constant involvement, the more scalable your value becomes. Let me give you an example. Years ago, I created simple materials on personal development. At first, they were just notes I shared in small workshops. But as I refined them, they became talks, then programs, then books. What started as me helping a handful of people grew into something that could help thousands. The effort of creating multiplied because it was packaged. That's what wealth building is. Turning value into a system that works even when you're not present. So don't chase money, chase value. Build something that genuinely improves lives, and money will follow naturally. The world is waiting for solutions, and the bigger the problem you solve, the greater the reward that comes back to you. Create value first, and watch how wealth inevitably finds you. One of the greatest illusions of wealth is lifestyle. A new car, a bigger house, a fancier vacation. All of these can look like success, but in truth, they're often just well-dressed liabilities. The reality is this: it's not what you earn that makes you rich. It's what you keep, and more importantly, what you multiply. Many people increase their income, but with it, they also increase their expenses. The raise comes, and suddenly the car payment grows. The promotion arrives, and suddenly the wardrobe doubles. They earn more, but end up with the same financial pressure. Or worse, even more. That's the trap. The discipline of wealth is not in earning, it's in restraining yourself from consuming everything you earn. You have to live below your means, deliberately, purposefully, and without apology. If you cap your lifestyle at 70% of your income, you create space for wealth to grow. That remaining 30% is your seed. That's where you plant for the future. And like any seed, it needs patience and protection to multiply. Now, here's the challenge. Most people feel comfortable spending, but they hesitate when it comes to investing. They'll confidently sign a lease for a luxury car, but hesitate to put money into an index fund, a rental property, or even their own business. Why? Because investing feels uncertain, while spending feels certain. But in reality, the opposite is true. Every dollar you spend on lifestyle is gone forever, while every dollar invested has the chance to come back multiplied. The rich understand this. They invest above their comfort level, stretching themselves into growth. I remember when I first started putting money into investments, it was uncomfortable. I thought of all the things I could have bought instead. But over time, I realized that discomfort was the sign of growth. If you invest only at the level that feels safe, you'll never stretch into wealth. The goal isn't to take reckless risks, but to push past the line of comfort and into the realm of productive risk. That's where growth lives. And here's the key. Don't just invest once and celebrate. Reinvest. When returns come in, don't immediately upgrade your lifestyle. Don't trade your dividends for dinners or your rental income for designer clothes. Recycle those returns into more assets. That's how compounding works. And compounding is one of the greatest forces in wealth building. A small snowball, rolled consistently, becomes an avalanche. The real test of discipline is not what you do when money is tight, but what you do when money is plentiful. Can you restrain yourself when you can afford indulgence? Can you keep building when comfort whispers that you've done enough? That's the difference between being rich for a season and wealthy for a lifetime. So remember this: live well, but live below your means. And when it comes to investing, don't shrink back into comfort. Lean into growth. Your future self, and perhaps even generations after you, will thank you. The mind is a wonderful place to dream, but it's also a dangerous place to store your future. Thoughts come and go. Ideas arrive in the night and vanish with the sunrise. Inspiration whispers in the morning and fades by the evening news. That's why goals, if they stay in your head, remain nothing more than wishes. Wishing doesn't build wealth, writing does. The moment you put pen to paper, you give shape to the invisible. You create a blueprint that tells your future where to go. I can't tell you how many people I've met who say, I want to be financially free, but when I ask, what does that mean in numbers? By when? How much? Through what vehicles? They look at me with blank faces. They're carrying a desire, not a plan. Desire is the spark, but discipline is the fire. And discipline begins with the simple act of writing it down. When I first started setting wealth goals, I wrote a 10-year vision. Not just vague hopes, but clear numbers. How much I wanted to accumulate. How much I wanted flowing in monthly. What kind of lifestyle I wanted, supported by assets, not wages. Then I broke it down into annual checkpoints, and from there into monthly targets. Suddenly, the impossible became manageable. A mountain turned into steps. Writing does something extraordinary. It commits you. When your goals are in black and white, they stare back at you. They challenge you. They remind you when you're drifting. And they celebrate with you when you hit the mark. It's hard to measure progress against a dream floating in your head. But when you have it on paper, you can see, I'm here, I've come this far, and this is what's next. And don't just write it once and hide it in a drawer. Review it, adjust it. Life changes, markets shift, opportunities appear, setbacks happen. Your goals must be living documents, not dusty declarations. That's why every quarter I would sit down look at the numbers, measure the progress, and refine the path. Sometimes I was ahead, sometimes behind, but either way, I knew exactly where I stood. There's also a psychological magic in writing. It moves the idea from the abstract into the tangible. It gives your mind permission to believe it's possible. The human spirit responds differently when you read your own words promising yourself a future. It's like planting a flag in the ground and saying, "This is where I'm headed, and I refuse to drift aimlessly." So don't just wish for freedom. Don't just dream about wealth. Write it down. Numbers, timelines, steps. Turn your imagination into ink, your vision into a map, and your map into consistent action. Because goals not in writing are nothing more than fantasy, but goals on paper, reviewed, refined, and pursued, are the very foundation of financial freedom. When it comes time to close a conversation like this, I never want to just wrap it up with words that sound good. I want to leave you with words that move you. Because wealth, freedom, success, they don't come because you heard a nice speech or because you nodded your head in agreement tonight. They come because you took the next step. They come because you decided that today was the turning point, where listening became action, where inspiration became discipline, where possibility became reality. So let's bring this whole journey together. We've talked about money not as a god to worship, but as a servant to use. We've talked about risk, not as something to fear, but as a bridge you must cross if you want to find freedom on the other side. We've talked about habits, daily disciplines, the long-term perspective, the power of multiplying streams of income, and the importance of leaving something behind that lasts longer than your days on earth. Each of these ideas by itself is powerful, but when they weave together, they form the very fabric of a life well lived. Think for a moment about time. It's ticking for each of us, whether we like it or not. 10 years from now, you're going to arrive somewhere. That's guaranteed. The only question is, where will you arrive? Will it be a destination designed by you, guided by your goals, fueled by your discipline? Or will it be a place chosen by neglect, drift, and the decisions of others? One path leads to freedom, the other to regret. And the truth is, the years will pass either way. The decision to take charge is yours. I remember when I was a young man, broke and frustrated, sitting in my small apartment with empty pockets and even emptier confidence. What changed? Everything wasn't a sudden inheritance. It wasn't luck, and it wasn't that the economy turned around. What changed was a moment of decision. I picked up a pen. I started writing down what I wanted. I started reading daily. I started saving even a little, building even slowly, disciplining myself even when it hurt. And I surrounded myself with people who thought bigger, lived wiser, and demanded more of themselves. Those choices didn't make me wealthy overnight, but they made me wealthy over time. And wealth over time is the only kind that lasts. So here's the call to action. Don't just listen, do. Don't just dream, decide. Write down tonight what you truly want. Not what sounds good, not what you think others expect, but what you truly want your life to look like. Then attach numbers, attach dates, attach steps. Next, take one risk that you've been avoiding. Not reckless, but calculated. Maybe it's starting that small business. Maybe it's making that first investment. Maybe it's saying no to comfort today so you can say yes to freedom tomorrow. Then, commit to the daily disciplines. They may seem small, almost too small to matter. $5 saved, 10 minutes read, a simple conversation with a mentor, but strung together over weeks, months, years, they turn into fortunes. Remember, success is rarely a giant leap. It's the steady climb, and with every step, your confidence grows, your capacity expands, and your freedom increases. Finally, think beyond yourself, because the truth is, money spent on luxury disappears the moment you're gone, but money invested in legacy speaks long after your voice is silent. What story will your grandchildren tell about you? Will they say you lived lavishly, or will they say you built wisely? Will they inherit debt, or will they inherit not only wealth, but the wisdom to multiply it? That choice is made today in the habits you set, the risks you embrace, and the values you stand on. My challenge to you is this: don't leave this room, don't close this video without making one written decision, one courageous step, and one simple habit that will change the trajectory of your life. You don't have to overhaul everything in a day, but you do have to start today. Because the great tragedy is not that life is short, but that too many people wait too long to begin living it fully. Freedom is built, not found. Wealth is created, not wished for. Your future is written, not imagined. So tonight, write it, begin it, live it. And may your life be the proof that ordinary people with extraordinary decisions can create not just money, but freedom that lasts a lifetime.